Hey there, this is Dennis Anyone with Dennis Hensley. It's a podcast about making things up and making things happen. I love talking to creative people who do creative things. Sometimes they get lots of money for it, sometimes they don't, but they do it anyway, and that's what I love. Today I have two guests. They are the two gentlemen behind the movie Rent Free. It's my favorite indie that I've seen in a long time. I have the director and co-writer, Fernando Andrès, and one of the stars and also one of the producers, Jacob Roberts. And the story is about two friends who are based in Austin. They're in their 20s. One is gay, one is bisexual, and they're kind of down on their luck. They're trying to figure out their lives, and they decide that they're going to try to live rent-free for a year and just bounce around on people's couches and stuff and save up money and then go to the big city like New York or maybe LA. I can't remember because they kind of talk about both. And make their dreams come true, and it's how that works. And it's a movie that's very funny. It's a little bit squirmy comedy, which I love. And it's honest about what it's like to try to live now, how much things cost, and all of that. So I was very excited to talk to Fernando and Jacob. But before we get to the interview, if you like this podcast, there are a few ways you can support it. And the biggest one is you could become a subscriber to my Patreon and or Substack. That's the same content on both. I've started a new Patreon Substack called Dennis Hensley's Happy and Gay, where I do some things that don't make it to the podcast. I talk about pop culture and things like that. But the biggest element, the thing that I'm leaning into the most, is I'm very interested in happiness, the science of happiness, what makes people happy. Are there things you can do when things aren't going your way to be happier, regardless of what's unfolding? And I found in my own life that there are. And so I talk about that. And that's part of the podcast as well. So learn about that at Patreon or Substack. Just search Dennis Hensley's Happy and Gay. And everything is free for the month of June. And then there'll be a mix of paid content and free content. The other thing you could do is if you want to just say thanks and leave a little tip in my virtual tip jar, that is at DennisAnyone.net. There's also a thing there called Buy Me a Coffee. So you could just, buy me a coffee. Click on a button and I'm enjoying coffee, so thank you. And finally, you can become a subscriber to DNR Studios. I'm part of the Derek and Romaine podcast family. There's a bunch of great shows on there, and so for a monthly fee, you get my show early, and then you get all these other great shows. So learn about that at dnrstudios.com. All right, on with the interview. Here are Fernando Andrès and Jacob Roberts from the very funny movie Rent Free. Joining me now from Los Angeles, it is Jacob Roberts and Fernando Andrès. They are the two of the people behind the wonderful new comedy Rent Free. Fernando co-wrote and directed it, and Jacob produced and stars in it, and Fernando also produced it. It's one of those movies where lots of folks did multiple things, and I saw the movie twice, and I loved it, and I'm excited to talk about it. So welcome to the podcast, you guys.
Thank you so much. We're really excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
So, Fernando, I first saw the movie at Vidiot's when it was part of the Guadalajara Film Festival, I think. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
That's great. That would have been 2024, I think.
Yeah.
And I related a lot to the movie then, but I relate to it more now because it's about some kind of people that are kind of in a desperate place in their life related to work and money and housing and things like that. So, Fernando, start with you. How do you describe the story to somebody that knows nothing about it?
Well, I describe the film as a buddy comedy updated for, exactly how you said, just a bleak economic landscape for Gen Z. And, of course, also for a kind of queer male friendship is very familiar to me that I haven't seen in those buddy comedies on screen as much. So, yeah, that's how I would describe it.
Right on. Now, Jacob, you play a character named Ben, and Ben's best friends with Jordan, and they find themselves kind of without a place to stay, without a lot of prospects. And they decide that they're going to try, their plan is to try to live rent-free, bounce around for a year and save up money and then go to New York and make their dreams come true. So they bounce around to different places. Jacob, how did you come to the project? I understand you guys have known each other for a while.
Yes. Well, we met in 20, I think we only met in 2022 at Outfest in Los Angeles when Fernando had his first feature, Three-Headed Beast, was playing at Outfest, and a short of mine called Half was playing at Outfest. And we were introduced by a mutual friend, and we just sort of instantly had a connection and became friends, and then quickly became creative partners as well. We made I was sort of in Austin. Fernando lives in Austin, where we shot the film, and I was in Austin shortly after, actually crashing on Fernando's couch. And when I was coming to Austin, Fernando said, "Oh, I wish we were the kind of people who would just make something while you were here in Austin for Austin Film Festival." And I said, "Oh, well, why don't we be those kind of people?" So then we co-wrote and co-directed a short film.
Right.
And after that, in the I guess the winter of 2023, Fernando came to me and said, "I'm writing this film. I have this idea for this film. I want you to star in it. Would you also produce it?" And he pitched me the idea, and I loved it. And then from there, we just started working together. And that summer was when we shot. And then a year later was when we premiered at Tribeca. And then now a year after that is when we are premiering for the whole world. So,
well, I love the movie. It's got like some cringe comedy moments in it where you just kind of can't believe what's unfolding. And Jacob, your character Ben, often like you want to stop him. You're like, "Don't, Ben, don't say it, don't do it." You don't. No, and that's not going to go well. But he can't help himself. Talk to me about Ben and what was fun about playing him.
Well, it's a fun character because it's very. I think there are elements of me in there, but for the most part, it's a very different character from who behaves very differently in those situations than I would. I would say that I'm generally more of I try to be maybe an overly considerate, not overly considerate. You can't really be overly considerate as a guest, but I definitely am not the sort of pushing my luck as far as I can, as far as when I'm a guest, being on the verge of kind of crossing a line and being kicked out. That's definitely not my vibe or energy or approach to being a house guest. So I would say, or generally to life.
Right.
So I'd say,
I feel like this press tour has been basically Jacob assuring everyone that that he would be a good house guest.
That he would be a house guest. He wouldn't make the mistakes that Ben makes.
Yeah. I think that's one aspect that's fun, is sort of, it's always fun to play a character that's a little different than yourself. And then also, but for the most part, I feel like also another really fun aspect of playing that character is exploring that relationship that he has with his best friend, and the ways in which he is very reliable, ways in which he isn't and is a reliable friend, and forming that relationship with my co-star was also a great pleasure.
Right. David Trevino plays Jordan, and you guys have a great chemistry, a great physical interaction, and I'm a sucker for friendship stories. They always move me more than any other kind of story because those are my primary relationships. And at one point, I think it's Jordan's character, David's character Jordan, that says to somebody, he says, "If I didn't have Ben, I would have crawled into a pit of despair." Like, things are so bleak for these guys, and they fuck up all the time. But if they didn't have each other, it would be way worse. And I find that really moving and really poignant. I connect to that a lot. Fernando, why was it important for you to kind of examine this kind of friendship? It felt kind of fresh to me and kind of lived in as well.
Thank you. Yeah, that was the hope. I mean, it's based on real male friendships that I've had, and just wanting to explore, I guess, the many pros and also the many cons of those friendships. Like the codependency of it. I think that also makes for great comedy. Yeah, just like seeing the way that they're kind of attached at the hip to each other, and how they kind of sabotage each other's pursuits. But it was important to me because it's very personal, but also just because knowing it, in the history of cinema, just like the great friendship films about friendships, or duos, or great platonic duos in film and wanting to explore that. So yeah, we started with Jacob, of course, writing the role for him. But it was actually kind of scary because we didn't have the actor for Jordan until very, very close to filming. So yeah, we were really lucky to find David.
How did you find David?
Jacob, I think Jacob's good at telling this story.
Okay, let's go for it.
Well, we found him. Well, it's interesting because if you look at the whole cast, so many of them actually are friends of ours who we had met on the festival circuit. A lot of them are directors and writers in their own right. And we really had, we're building these characters around them, or on occasion just, it was more of like a last minute thing of we're like, we haven't cast this role. Well, no, I bet, this person would be great for it, and pulling them in. But with David was one of the few people that we really cast through a more traditional casting process, in the sense that, he read for the role, and there was more of an audition process. And then we really were just sort of sifting through all these people and trying to find someone who felt right. And we really did feel kind of like lightning struck when we first watched his tape. And then then Fernando threw us onto like a chemistry read with each other on Zoom. And we thought Fernando was going to be on the Zoom, but we logged on and it was just the two of us. And in that meeting, I mean, we instantly got along. We instantly hit it off. We instantly had this kind of chemistry, and it did just feel right. But the interesting thing is, we never actually really met in person until 2 days before we started shooting. So we really had to build that chemistry on the fly. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you guys are really winning together. Before each new place where they end up staying, there's a title card that flashes that has the address, that has how much it costs, that has where it is. And it's so interesting because I'm at that age and I'm in an economic situation where I'm looking at people going, how do they fucking live there? How do they make their money? Where do you get your money? Like, how is everyone making it work? So it's like seeing those numbers is just like, even in the audience I saw it with, you could hear them sort of like gasp or moan, or like how much a 2-bedroom is in Austin. So the idea to put the money up there and the address, where did that come from, Fernando?
That was one of the very first ideas for the film. Just having the title cards kind of be almost chapter headings for each of the places that they would go to. It was only later that I kind of remembered, like, that must have subconsciously been pulled from X, Y, or Z movies that kind of have similar ideas. But I think that, you mentioned it, but yeah, I think there's an avoidance of specificity to a lot of films just throughout, like not even recently, but just like films from the 70s, the 80s, where they don't really go into the price or the actual like numbers of how much a thing costs because it dates it, right? But I think that this film, you're very much leaning into the fact that this is a snapshot of a very specific time, which is Austin, post-COVID, post-tech boom, and this kind of arrested development in an identity crisis of a city, and it's the prices. But I think that also the main idea of the title cards was that it's almost kind of setting the tone, or setting the tone for those different settings, and kind of how the class of the hosts kind of like dictate the way that the characters treat each other, and
And all the details are true to that. It's not like you have a yoga instructor living in a loft and you're like, how the fuck do you afford that? Like it all feels very like real. At one point you stay with this gay couple who, and one of them works in tech. And I believe that this actor, I think his name is Neil Mulani. Does that sound right?
That's right. That's right.
I think he was at the screening that you did at Vidiot's. And he works in tech, but his job sounds kind of awful, but they have the nicest place. It's all of these things that we're all living in. And it just was like almost too real, almost too like, oh, ouch. But I love the toxic couple because they're fighting all the time in a really ugly way. And it's just great. So where did the idea come from to have like a gay couple that's kind of like unbearable, hard to be around. Like, you know what I mean? Because we're always like, oh, we want to be nice, shiny, happy gay couples. But no, these guys were the worst. Well, one in particular.
I think that was twofold. I think one was I had the general idea and didn't know the sexuality or specifics of what the couple would be, but just that sounded like a funny, cringy, dramatic setup or one of the places to be. Yeah, like when you're staying with a couple and they're fighting and it's, no one wants to be around a couple that's clearly working through issues. And so there was the vague idea of that, but then it was also knowing that I wanted Neil Milani to be in the film, and who I think is a great comedic actor. And a great comedic writer director in his own right, but he has a very specific energy and humor to him. And I guess I built the character around Neil's not nothing like that character, but like at least I thought I laughed at the idea of him playing like a Facebook gay,
right,
with a himbo husband. So it was twofold coming up with that.
He has one of my favorite lines. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's fun also to have all these other situations where they're really the drivers of the ultimate events that get them kicked out. But this is the one place where they just can't bear to be around this toxic couple.
Yeah, it's hilarious. And Neil has one line that I wrote down because it made me laugh out loud. They've had a crazy party at their house, and it's still kind of unfolding. And the Neil ends up with his partner and the two friends in a room, and he says they're kind of cuddling, and he goes, "I love my chosen family. Now, can you help me get these faggots out of my house?" It was so funny to me because just like all of those contradictions, all of those awkwardnesses, and Jacob's character likes to hook up. And he'll be getting rimmed by a guy and going, "Hey, how much do you pay a month for this house?" Like he's always thinking about the next move to survive. And I think that's how we're all at now. I think I related to it so much. Talk to me about that side of Jacob, because you're on Grindr and hooking up, and it's an interesting piece to the puzzle.
Well, it's fun to figure out. Those intimacy scenes you often think of them as, they're these very sort of vulnerable and, passionate and sensual scenes to get into as an actor. And there is obviously that vulnerable component of it, but to have it sort of undercut by some of these more awkward, either the more awkward realities of hooking up and hookups that don't go quite right, or the kind of more base, superficial motive or materialistic motivations for why you're having the hookup in the first place. I mean, this is also a means for this character to survive this harebrained scheme that they've put together by using his, sexuality and using sex as a way to get to the next place that he's going to stay. But you also see that doesn't always have the most felicitous consequences for him.
No, but it's very funny when it happens. Can you just use Grindr in a movie now, or do you have to get their permission? How does that work?
Oh, you can just use it.
You can just use it. I feel like you can. You never see it, but you hear, somebody mentions it. Somebody mentions TikTok. Like, it's part of our life. Somebody mentions Facebook. It's like the utilities these days.
We did.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say at indie films of this level, I think that you're in the clear with that, as long as you've got like E&O insurance. But we did do a fake app for the Uber Eats kind of app that Ben uses throughout the film, just because it was so heavily featured, and we're kind of showing like what a kind of crappy job it is. We didn't want to like pin that on, the actual food service.
Like a DoorDash. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause Jacob does that for a while, and he actually calls people out for not tipping. Like, you really feel all of these things. Have you heard from audiences that they relate, and that it's like, I don't know. It's almost like, it's too real in a way. Like, have you heard from people that say, "Oh man, I relate to this so much"?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's been, I I think the reaction of relatability from people has not been surprising, because of course we're making this from personal experience and the experience of friends who were all in the same age group. And we didn't make the film, to be relatable or to relate to those people. I think what has been, I think, more rewarding as a reaction from audiences is that it is kind of making people interrogate, I guess, the shittier, darker sides of like how we treat other people when we're in this kind of like desperate, because everyone's struggling. Everyone feels like they're in this desperate economic situation.
Yeah.
But the film is not supposed to be like, isn't it crazy when we're all broke and can't do like it's not the relatability that's the important thing. It's more the unflattering mirror image that we're hoping to give audiences, where it's like, this is kind of how that leads us to treat, our closest friends, and So hearing people react in that way has been great, and also a very funny reaction we've gotten from older audience members and like family members, like parents of actors have just been like, their reaction has been like, wow, they were really spiraling, or like, wow, it's like so dark. And I guess to us, like, it wasn't as dark as I think it's only when the older generation points that out that we realize that.
Well, I'm an older generation than you guys, but I can count on one hand the number of my friends that are like well set up and good, like working and consistent, and like, a lot of my friends, and I'm in that boat, are a little anxious about things and work and all of it. So it really spoke to me. You want to hear a story that is something that might have happened in your movie, and I'm not proud of it, but I feel like I feel like this is a safe space. Okay, I sometimes go to Costco for lunch because it's in the neighborhood and it's cheap, right? So you get a hot dog and a drink and it's like under $2, right? Well, the next day I was by there again and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get a slice of pizza. But I had my cup in the car from the day before. So with the pizza, you don't get a drink, but I just have my cup. So I don't know, right? So I go to the window. And the guy's like, oh, you like shopping at Costco? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, oh, you got the cup. And I was like, oh shit, I'm totally busted on my dumb 30-cent swindle. And I thought, oh yeah, I was here earlier. I got a hot dog. I mean, what? I'm not proud of that, but that feels like something that that your characters.
But you made it work, right? You didn't have to get another drink.
I made it worked, but the shame spiral was not worth it. Was not worth the 30 cents.
That Costco employee didn't care.
He did it very nicely, actually, and he's a cute man. And I was like, oh man, the cute man just fucking busted me. And he did, oh, you like shopping? But yeah, that's not cute. It's not a cute look.
I think it shows great ingenuity. Ingenuity, and I think
you for validating me.
That's a great quality in someone. So I think it is a good look.
Yeah. There was a scene. There are so many things I related to in this movie. There's a scene where Jordan is staying with a girl that had just been broken up with, and her house is a mess, and he offers to help her, because I've been in situations where like you can't clean up your own mess, but if a friend comes over to help you, you can do it, or you can clean up somebody else's mess, but you can't do yours. Like I've been that friend on both ways, but it blows up in his face, and it's so heartbreaking in a way, because he's doing something really nice, and it just backfires in a way that's all too relatable. So I don't know. Any thoughts on where that idea came from and that sequence?
Yeah, so that I love how that sequence sits in the film now. But what's funny is that actually was initially a much longer section of the film. Not much longer, but at least it was, let's say, the first part of like a 3-part structure there at that apartment. That would have been the idea would have been that this is the place, this is the location that the guys stay at, where they are getting mooch off of. Like that. They clean the house, and then they cook for her, and then they change the oil in her car. And that, so like this, it really came as like a comedic idea to Tyler Rue, the co-writer, and I, and we were just making ourselves laugh. And I think Jacob was a voice of reason, where he's like, I don't really see where this is going. Like, let's cut back on this. So we settled on it just being just the messy apartment, which is how it should be, I think.
Well, you see it all cleaned up and you're like, but then, it doesn't go well. One of the most surprising and moving sections of the movie is when the two guys go to stay with Ben's father and brothers in a place called Flower Mound, Texas. That's a real place.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's where Tyler and I grew up.
Flower Mound. Yeah. How did it get its name?
Well, there is a titular flower mound at the entrance, and I think we got B-roll of it, but all the flowers were dead. So it was like peak of summer. So
the mound didn't make it. The actor that plays Ben's father, I think his name is Bill Wise.
Oh yeah,
he is so
icon.
He is so perfect, and he's kind of funny. He has this funny way of speaking, but he's wise, and what he says kind of is like the heart of the movie to me, which is he sees that Jordan is struggling and that Ben could be paying more attention to him. And he sort of talks to him about the value of friendship. Like, don't take this for granted. Can you as an actor, Jacob, talk about that scene? Because I thought it was really disarming and wise and really moving.
Well, it's interesting. When we arrived, we were slated to shoot that scene first, and Bill asked if we could wait and shoot that scene at the end of those few days of shooting at that house.
Right.
I thought that was nice in that it gave us a little time to develop and understand our father-son dynamic.
Yeah.
And then also, I think a good thing about that scene is that since it takes place during, while we're doing the dishes.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have just a really concrete action of like what you're doing while the scene is playing out that sort of grounds you in reality and naturalism, because you're not focused, you're not overthinking the scene or the dynamic, or you're focused on I'm doing the dishes,
right,
and my dad's getting in my face, or it just brings a nice naturalism to it, to have it grounded in that action. So I like that aspect of it too.
Yeah. Fernando, what about for you as the writer and director of that scene?
Yeah, well, so the suburbs section of the film was very important to me in the script, that we not give Ben. It's only meant to interrogate Ben's character even further rather than giving him an out. Like, we get there and it's the suburbs in Texas. Like, I think people will have an idea of like what his family life is like, especially once we learn it's like a boy's house. It's like the dad and the two brothers, and there's firefighters. I think the audience probably knows, they think that they're ahead of it, and they're like, oh, well, they're probably very homophobic or not accepting of him, or the vibes are terrible. But instead, I wanted to subvert that and also maybe show that, it's not as simple as, that's not why Ben is like pulled away from that existence. It's something more about like the stasis and the kind of like opiate, kind of high of just being there in the suburbs, like having all the fast food in the fridge and just like languishing. But yeah, Bill Wise, that's another actor that I wrote this for, despite never having worked with him before. But he is a legendary Austin actor who's been in many films with sometimes, the best scenes in those movies. And I just thought he would make an amazing dad for Jacob. I just thought they looked similar and have similar vibes. And I think Jacob has mentioned that a lot of people think that they actually are father and son. So,
well, I love that whole sequence, and it's heartbreaking because Jordan finally feels safe somewhere. The other friend, like he kind of doesn't want to leave the suburbs. He's got family around him. It's this thing of like, where do I belong in the world? People need a place to be. There's something, I'm getting very deep and heady with your fun comedy, but I think it's about some really deep stuff that really hits home.
Definitely. And Jordan, that's also a recognition of, I think, that tension between Jordan wanting to stay and Ben wanting to leave it drives home that feeling of, oh, wait, Ben really has it pretty good here. He has this, loving family and he has a place to stay and he has the fridge is packed with food. Like, why is he running away from this and putting himself into, situations where he's not comfortable and not secure, and feels like there's almost a little bit of an element of, from Jordan's perspective, for Ben to step away from this and say, oh, we got to go, when Jordan finally is feeling that sense of security and comfort, feels selfish in a way.
Yeah, it's like the flips. They flip. One of them wants to stay, and the other one needs to leave home again. I remember at the Guadalajara screening, I asked a question of Fernando, and I don't know if you remember this, but I asked you what I was in the audience, and I asked what moment from shooting this you will always remember, even 30 years from now. Do you have any recollection of this?
Of course, yeah, and so I remember we spoke very briefly on the way out.
Yeah, but I loved your answer. I loved what you said about your answer. Do you remember what you said?
Was it about shooting that party scene? Yes, yeah. I mean, it really, it still sticks with me. And I just did an interview where I said it again just because it always comes to mind. But yeah, it was the day that we were shooting the party that happens halfway through the film. And it was logistically, on paper, it was the most difficult thing that we had to film. More than anything, just because of the amount of extras.
Right.
Also the importance of the place of those scenes in the script, just being like in the very, it's the setup of what sends the film off on its, on the characters on their arc. And, it was smack dab in the middle of shooting. And I was so nervous and so stressed out about like how this was all going to go wrong.
Right. We have to get enough people to make this feel like a big party. And what if we don't get extras?
Yeah.
Like anyone that's made a small indie and they have a crowd scene, they're like, oh God, I hope people come. Right.
Yeah, exactly. And then, thanks to our casting director, Taylor Brock, who was inviting friends of hers and, casting crew that were inviting their friends, it just filled out like a real party, like clockwork just in front of us. And I went in the backyard, I was operating camera and was filming the takes with the beautiful light that our gaffer had, set up for us in the backyard. And Jacob and David and Temple and Sarah and Island, these actors all giving great performances. And it went by so smoothly. And I think I just had a moment there in the backyard where I was like, oh my God, like, this is what I want to do the rest of my life. Like, I just want to be in the chaos of a film set. But, that's being kept afloat by the talent and the generosity of the people around me, and the community around me too. It just felt like I was there at an Austin backyard party, making a film. Yeah.
Yeah. This sort of dilemma comes up a lot in this podcast, when I talk to people, which is, I believe that art and creativity make life worth living, make life bearable. Like, I don't know what we would do if we didn't have it across the race, the human race. And yet it's harder to do it. And it feels like it's getting harder every day. And so it's this thing of like, were we all supposed to do something else? Or are we supposed to be doing this and it's just fucking hard? But then you have a moment like that party and you think, okay, you feel like something came up to meet you. I don't know, this dilemma of like, I went and saw a musical the other night and there were these young people in it that were really good and they were singing their hearts out. And I'm like, there's no way they're not meant to be doing this. And then part of me is like, do something else. It's too hard, So that's where I'm at. Any thoughts about my existential crisis?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think the fact that we do it despite how difficult it is.
Yeah.
Despite, and the fact that it's done, that also it's done in all these contexts where, I mean, probably the greatest number of shows that are put on are probably in community theaters, and then also maybe elementary schools putting on plays, all that. And those are kind of situations where it's existing, outside of the pressures of profit and money and financial gain. But it also, it also is enough of a drive for enough of us that we still pursue it despite the challenges. And I think that goes to show how it is hardwired in human nature to pursue the the arts as a means of expressing one's creativity. It's a very sort of a very deeply set need, I think, to find an outlet for expressing yourself and your view of the world and your desires and your fears.
Yeah. And I don't know what the other road was. I never saw it. Fernando, do you have any thoughts on this hard to solve topic?
No. Well, I mean, the way that I look at it is just that, I guess I don't, lie or pretend that, my pursuit of creating art is this altruistic thing, or that it's, I think all of these great things of like community and, the ability to have people relate with the art and, feel less alone because of it. It's not stuff that it's kind of the great, I don't want to say side effects of it, but those are all great things. But I think that I don't go in with the express purpose of like, oh, I'm doing this for other people, because I don't think that's true. I think that, pursuing art is, and being an artist is, and this doesn't get talked enough about, can be a very selfish profession. But I think that the selfishness is not misplaced, because, I am a great consumer of art and film. And the reason that I love watching films is because I feel like when it's good films, is that I'm receiving, a director's worldview, how they see the world, how they make sense of the world, how they grapple with, the same horrible, chaotic realities that we live in, or the great chaotic emotions that we all have. And, it's, and that's what I'm trying to do with my films. And I hope that will be similar for audiences, just receiving what it's like to be alive.
But isn't part of the selfishness of it, Fernando, or the kind of non-altruistic aspect of it, isn't it still rooted in the expectation and knowledge that other people will see it and engage with it? Even if your goal isn't to create community, even if you're actually driven by just a desire to, be seen and to have your worldview seen and to be able to have other people take in your worldview the way that you have with the artists that you admire most, isn't that selfish aspect of it still tied to, in that sense, to that sort of community, not necessarily community?
I think it's a longing to connect, right? Wanting to connect in a way, or
at least, even if it is selfish, even if it's not just, I want to connect with other people, but I want other people to connect with me, with my view of the world, it still does acknowledge this sort of, the exchange and the exchange of ideas that cinema can bring about.
Yeah.
So true, King.
Yeah, no, I get it. It makes sense. Talk to me about Austin, because I had some friends move there a couple of years ago. They were actors and writers in LA, had found some success, had a family. It just wasn't coming together. They were struggling out here, and they were able to sell their house and buy and move to Austin and get out from under all that financial pressure. And I think they're doing all right. But the way it looks like in your movie, there's like a big tech influx. Talk to me about the state of Austin right now, because that's like another part of your movie that's explored.
Yeah, I mean, making the film was it came out of a desire to update, the filmic kind of public conception of Austin as like the slacker haven, because when we were taking my first feature, we had it based on the circuit, which is also set in Austin. I was just so shocked how many people that was their idea of Austin. Like, oh, it's so cheap, right? Like, oh yeah, that's like where artists go to crash on couches and write their next album or whatever. Like, they have this very dated idea of it, and I think it's the filmic idea of Austin still kind of remains in the Slacker, Linklater's film, which is a masterpiece, but also a very Gen X portrait of Austin right before the shit hit the fan and it became more similar to a San Francisco or I'll be more generous, more like an LA kind of city. And I have a great love-hate relationship with the city, as everyone that lives somewhere for a while has. And I think I like living here because because it's removed from the film industry. It's nice to stay centered and to not be kind of surrounded by it.
All the time. I get it. But you have seen it change quite dramatically, probably, and quite quickly. Yeah. Jacob, I think you're a terrific actor. You're so good.
Aw, thank you.
Right? You're so good. I thought, I thought I don't know. I thought I had seen you before in things. I don't know. There's just something about you that's like so winning. Fernando, can you talk about Jacob as an actor?
Well, I think that he's undeniable as an actor. I think that's what I first saw on the short film that he mentioned that was at Outfest. I think his physical presence, his body language, and of course, just like his wit, all of that just hit me. I was like, this is a movie star. Like, this is someone that needs to be in movies and TV shows and everything. So, coming up with this film was just an excuse I know that I have one surefire, because of course that's like, when you make a film, you want to build it around things that will work. Like, oh, that's an idea that I know will work, or a concept I know will work. But this was really like, I know that Jacob Roberts in a lead role in a feature would be a surefire thing. So, I love him. And I think that throughout production, which of course is very different for a feature, is very different from a short, because the element of stamina comes in. I think that Jacob just showed a Olympic level of stamina in that regard, just able to plunge into the more emotional and physically intense and sexual and aggressive, like kind of aggressive parts of his character on any given day, and then be able to remain light and friendly with crew and other cast members in between. So I'm just amazed by him as an actor.
There you go, Jacob. Any thoughts on how awesome you are?
I think both of you just about covered it.
No, I just think you're so good. I could see you in all different kinds of projects, and that like kind of comedic, and just like he gets himself into these pickles, and I just thought it was really convincing, and the emotional stuff as well. So you mentioned Richard Linklater. When I think of Austin and film, that's who I think of. Is he somebody you know? Is he kind of around? As an Austin filmmaker, what does he represent to you?
He's around. Yeah, he runs a movie theater in Austin that I live right next door to, and I live there essentially. Like, I'm just watching movies there.
Amazing. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, my husband and I just go to so many repertory screenings there. But yeah, Rick is of course, growing up in Texas, he is a larger than life figure in the Texas film canon.
Yeah.
I think that he's made some of my very favorite films, and he also is a great template for the writer-director that pursues what interests them, sometimes at the expense of commercial interests or things that maybe the industry suggests that you do. But yeah, he's a great mentor and great supporter of this film as well, because he came to our Austin screening at that movie theater that he owns.
I love it.
Jake talked to Jacob and I about it afterwards. Yeah,
that's very cool. What's the name of the movie theater?
Austin Film Society is his group, and then the theater is just the AFS Cinema. Yeah,
I love that, and I love that he shows up for other filmmakers. That's really cool. Jacob, I saw that you went to Harvard and you were part of the Hasty Pudding Theatricals.
I was.
I would always see, like, they would always get a big celebrity to show up there, right?
Yes.
So break it down for me. What is that like? That you got? It's a theatrical society, and then they put on different shows?
Yeah, so it's a theatrical society that has put on a drag burlesque musical every year since 1844.
Wow.
And every year we put on an original, not we anymore, but it was we.
Yes.
Put on an original show with these amazing costumes and this amazing set. And it's a musical, with a story and everything. It's not just sort of a review. It's more of a whole, 2-act musical. And then the opening night of the musical, and then also the preview of the musical, we bring a Woman of the Year and a Man of the Year. So some of the ones while I was there were Paul Rudd and Octavia Spencer. Were two of them, for example. And I did it for 4 years, and I wrote to one of the shows and wrote the lyrics for another one of the shows. But yeah, that's kind of what it is. Then we do show. It's kind of almost like a professional schedule. We're doing shows on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday for 5 weeks in the spring.
Wow. Well, you always would see pictures in magazines of there's Octavia Spencer, and they would always have some weird costume on. And I'm like, you get these celebrities to come and play with you guys. Do you learn a ton doing that, throwing those shows together?
Yes, you do. Part of it is just the privilege of being able to produce your work at that level in terms of production value. Right. I will say, looking back on the musicals that I wrote, I'm not particularly proud of the quality of them in themselves, but the experience. But you have to get a few bad ones out.
Yes, of course. That's part of it, right? And that's what you're there to do. I love that. I have a couple more questions for you guys, but first of all, I want to make sure everyone knows that this movie, Rent Free, it's so fun, it's so great, it's really resonant as well, and I think it drops on video on demand at the end of this month, the 27th, if I'm not mistaken, and everyone should check it out. And are there anything other projects or anything you guys want to get a mention in for?
Jacob and I are working on a couple more feature films that we hope to shoot in the fall, which there will be more news about, I'm sure. But no, we're just excited for the film to get out there, and also for our Blu-ray release, which I believe will be in September.
Sexy.
From Vinegar Syndrome.
I love a Blu-ray. The other day I was at Vidiot's and I rented a DVD, and I came home and I watched, it was White Nights because I wanted to see the dancing of Baryshnikov and Gregory Hines. But then there was a featurette, the making of, and they don't do those anymore. And I was so into the featurette, and then the credits came up and it was my friend Jeffrey Schwartz, who has been on this podcast before, and I'm like, anyway, I'm happy to hear there's a Blu-ray. Yay for physical media.
Yeah. There will be commentary on it, with a lot of guests on it, from the cast and crew. And no featurette, sadly. We did not have the budget for
it's a lost art.
But we do have a cute little, a montage of sorts of the BPS photography so people can see
and we have our
what went into it.
And you have what, Jacob?
Our short that Fernando and I made.
Fantastic.
On the Blu-ray as well.
I love it. Well, I look forward to that. Okay, here's my final 2 questions. From what I read and the way you guys are talking about it, this movie came together kind of fast. You had the idea, you wrote it, you're shooting it, and then it's in festivals. It was quick. My first question is, what did you guys learn doing something like that from this experience?
I would say that, the speed, the hustle of it really comes, it's almost reactionary, I think, to the hell of development process that a lot of filmmakers get stuck in, where they're trying to get films off the ground at a much higher budget level. So if you're doing a micro budget film, and this is also how I feel about friends doing shorts, I really think that you should not be spending more than a year on that. Just because that's the whole point of that medium to me, is just the speed, the ability to be nimble, the ability to not have to depend on studios or producers or backers to allow you to make it. And also there's the element of it. There's a great Clint Eastwood quote that I love, where he tries to, the way that he shoots and how he makes things so fast, of course, on a much different level, but he wants to make it fast so that he can he can keep his enthusiasm as concentrated as possible and eliminate the possibility of the enthusiasm for the project running out by the end of it. So that's why he wants to condense it. And yeah, so I think that, having done that twice now with 2 micro budget features, I stick by that. I think that that's it's a great way to learn how to make films. I think that is one of those cliches that is true, that making a film is the only real film school is making a feature film. And I fully believe that after having done it twice. But yeah, the lessons learned also include maybe, the importance of taking time on things when you can. So the script, I think that these scripts are written very fast, but I'm very grateful for the upcoming projects I have, which are scripts that have had time to gestate and change and improve over time. But sometimes you don't have the time for that. So I think be quick on your feet and be open to ideas from everyone on set.
Love it.
That would be, yeah.
Jacob, what did you learn?
I think most of all, maybe what I learned is just, or what I gained is just a kind of level of confidence in my own ability to handle a role of this size and intensity, and then also to produce a feature film. I mean, just to come away saying, wow, we accomplished something of quite a significant scale with very limited resources, gives me a lot of confidence going into future projects.
Yeah, I can do stuff. I can make shit happen. I can do it. I asked Fernando this at the screening, what moment he'll always remember from making it. What would you always remember 30 years from now from this project?
That's a great question. There are definitely a couple moments along the way that I'll always remember, but definitely there was the challenge of that sort of final final emotional climax between me and David, between Ben and Jordan, and I think I remember feeling a lot of pressure and a lot of anxiety about getting this moment in the film right, and not letting everyone down by not performing to the peak of my ability. And then to have the experience of pushing through that anxiety and of even needing to take a little, kind of space and just sit in my emotions a little bit. I think a lot of the time my acting process is much more just intuitive and just, it's easy. I kind of don't really have to think about it and work so hard at it, because I'm really just doing the scene, and I'm just doing the scene. But with the scene where you just have to really get yourself into a particular headspace, that's a big challenge. So I think from starting that scene to being in the middle and feeling all this sort of self-doubt to coming out the other end and being really proud of my work, I think is something that I'll certainly remember for a long time.
Yeah, well, because you feel like you have to rise to the occasion because it's of what it means in the movie, and I think you do. I love where it happens. I love the kind of full circleness of that. You guys, I love your movie. I hope a lot of people see it. They should all see it. Here's my final question: why do you guys do what you do?
Save the hardest for last. Well, I think I also got into it a little bit in the other answer, but I do it because I love film. It sounds corny, but it's completely true. It's my religion. It's the thing that gives my life meaning, and the way that I make sense of the chaos and the chaos of the world, the emotions and reality of dealing with other people, it gives life pleasure and meaning.
I relate to that a lot. What about for you, Jacob? Why do you do what you do?
I think, there are two aspects to it. One, the actual experience of being on set and the sort of never-ending whack-a-mole of different problems to solve and the swirl of energy and personalities and people is just so much fun. I really love being on set. And then second thing is, I think that I work at least as when I'm thinking about writing and about stories, that I do get a lot of it does almost become a kind of philosophical exercise in a way where I understand better from starting a project to finishing a project and seeing the kind of what I see to be the import of the way that the project engages with its themes and the way that the characters change over the course of the film and the things that they want at the beginning of the film and what they get and don't get, and all of these things become they build out my world view. They help me work through problems and understand problems, questions, issues, both kind of on a grander sort of existential scale, but also in the nitty-gritty of my own life and what I want in my own life. They help me understand all those things better and articulate all those things better. So I think that's another major reason.
Awesome. I relate to that as well. You guys, thanks so much for taking the time to do this. I hope everyone watches your movie. As a queer movie, it's interesting and different. It's got new stuff in there. I like the way all of that stuff was woven throughout, and it's a delight. So thank you for making it, and good luck with everything you do. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. This is great. Thank you.
Thanks again to Fernando and Jacob. Check out their very funny movie, Rent Free. It drops on video on demand June 27th. All right, so this happened. I booked a dance job, you guys, and I don't know if I mentioned it on this podcast or the other Happy and Gay one because I get confused now. So there's going to be a lot of doubling up. I can't say much about it because I signed an NDA, but I do talk about the experience of it on the Happy and Gay podcast. So, check that out if you want to hear about my big dance gig. It was very exciting. It was like a big deal, and I'm very grateful and happy about it. The other thing that's happening is there's a really cool festival happening in LA now, the LA Fringe Fest for theater lovers, and I've seen 2 musicals there, and both of them I enjoyed a lot. One of them is called Pump Up the Volume, and it's based on the Christian Slater movie from, I think, 1990-ish. Where he's like a secret DJ at night. And I remember seeing the movie, but I kind of forgot what the story was about. And I really enjoyed it. It was very relevant. I liked the songs, and the cast was fantastic. And so hopefully it'll have a life beyond that. I know this is an early workshop production, but I think it deserves to be to blow up, as it were. And the other thing, I got to see one of my very favorite musicals, Pippin. It was put on by Jack's Theatricals here in LA, and it was a very youthful, energetic, fresh take on Pippin, and it had like this Hollywood, only in Hollywood kind of feeling to it. Like some of the costuming was evocative of like classic Hollywood characters that we know that sadly had tragic ends, like Marilyn Monroe and Elvis and stuff. And it was kind of like an only in Hollywood kind of production, which was cool, and it had a youthful energy to it that I appreciate. And I just love those songs. I love those songs. I kind of love the story, the existentialness of it. The choreography was cool. It was kind of a little Fosse touch here and there, but mostly it was its own thing, which I enjoyed. So anyway, if you're around LA, the Fringe Fest, it's a cool thing. It's really kind of blown up in my mind in the last few years. Like, I guess it's been happening for years, but lately, in the last few years, I've been seeing a lot of fun stuff there. So there's that. All right, that's enough for this week. Thank you so much for listening. I want to give a shout-out to Oscar Rosario for mixing the episodes. My theme music is by Mark Daniels for Placement Music. We'll catch you next time on Dennis Anyone. Bye!